This video is to cover number 5 of your test review for tomorrow's test 2. Number 5, these are all complex numbers stuff, so one thing I want you to remember to write on your test, or at least on your scrap paper, is what all of these equal. So please write all of this. I know you might think you don't need to, but I promise you that when students do write this, they don't make mistakes, but if they don't write it, then they do make mistakes. So write a list of I to the first down to I to the fourth, and remember I won. But remember that the I squared and I cubed, the two in the middle here, are negative. When you divide by 4, remember that these equate to like a quarter, 50 cents, 75 cents, $1, meaning it divides evenly. And this will help you. So the ones we use especially are the fact that I squared is equal to negative 1. So if we simplify 5a, you'll notice we have an I square term. Well, it just equals I, so there's nothing to do to simplify that. But the negative 1, if we replace I squared with negative 1, it's actually going to change the sign of this term. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. And then you'll actually see that you've got two like terms. Please remember that you should always write the real number part first, then the imaginary. So your answer would be 6 minus 8i. You may not have a lot of room to write all your work out on your paper, so feel free to do your work on a separate sheet tomorrow. For B, remember when we have these large exponents, we have to divide it by 4 and then equate it to one of these values here on our chart. So when we divide 311 by 4, the number ends in 0.75. 0.75 is negative I, so our answer is negative I. For C, we are multiplying two binomials, so we actually have to double distribute. I'm going to use the box here on a separate sheet of paper here to help you out with this. I think you all do a lot better job when you use the box. Make sure it's large enough so when you write in it, you can see what you've written. 6 times 2 is 12. 2 times 5 is 10i. 6 times negative 7i is negative 42i. And 5 times negative 7 is negative 35i squared. Remember that because I squared equals negative 1, this is going to turn into positive 35. The nice thing about this is your terms are like terms diagonally in your box. So 12 will be combined with 35. Remember to do your real numbers first, so that's going to give us 47. And then we combine these I terms. Negative 42 plus 10 is negative 32i. And that would be our answer. So 47 minus 32i. For part D, we have 2 minus 7i over 6i. We're going to need to rationalize this. Here we multiply by the conjugate. The conjugate of 6i is negative 6i. So I'm going to create a fraction, negative 6i over 6i, and then multiply. Now on the bottom, when I multiply, keep your signs right. 6 times negative 6 is negative 36. I times I is I squared. Remember that every time we write I squared, we want to substitute negative 1, so our denominator will equal positive 36. So that takes care of the denominator, but up top we're going to need to distribute. Negative 6i times positive 2 is negative 12i, and negative 6i times negative 7i is positive 42i squared. At this point, again, we want to substitute negative 1 here. This will turn this into negative 42. Remember to write your real number first, then your imaginary, over 36. Then, if you have common factors, you need to reduce. All of these are divisible by 6. In fact, I'm going to write above here that this would be like a negative 7 times 6 minus 2 times 6i. And this, of course, is 6 times 6. So if we cancel a 6 from each one, that leaves us with a final answer of negative 7 minus 2i over positive 6. Okay, that's for D. For E, got negative 7 over 2 plus 5i. We have to multiply by our conjugate to minus 5i on the top and the bottom. Remember that the only thing you change is the operation, no other signs, okay? Now when we multiply this together up top, we're going to take this one term, and since we're multiplying by two terms, we have to distribute. So that's negative 14 plus 35i over, and if you want to use the box for this, you can. But know that your I terms always should cancel out. So 4, 10i, negative 10i, negative 25i squared. Be careful here. So this is going to turn into plus 25. 25 combined with 4 gives us 29. The middle terms cancel, so we just combine these. That should happen every time. You should end up with a positive integer in the denominator, no I. You look for any common factors, but 29 is a prime number, so that's your answer. All right. For F, we have negative square root of negative 500 e to the 4th f to the 7th g. Please remember that you're supposed to have I in your answers here. So don't forget, we put an I out front, but don't forget it later when we simplify this to make sure I is included in your answer. 500 breaks down to 5 times 100. We can stop when we get to 100 because we're going to have 10 times 10, which pairs up, and that's going to come on the outside. So I'm going to write a list of stuff that we want on the outside, and then we'll figure out what needs to go on the inside. So we have to keep the I. The I always goes right in front of the radical. The 10, pair of 10s will come out because the square root of 100 is 10, but the 5 remains under here. One thing I also don't want you to get lost about is this negative. This negative still remains in our answer. This negative is taken care of by I, but don't forget that I or you'll lose points. Now, what I would do is recognize that you're looking for pairs. If you understand that you can divide by 2 and do that the short way, that's fine. Or you can write out 1, 2, 3, 4 E's, an F, 7 F's rather, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1 G. And then circle pairs. So an E is going to come out, an E is going to come out, an F is going to come out, an F is going to come out, and another F, and these remain. So that they have to go underneath. So when you write your final answer, it will be negative 10. 2 E's is E squared. E times E is E squared. F times F times F is F cubed. I square root of 5 FG. Now, if you do this correctly, then if you're thinking about like how can I check my answer, if you type in the square root of 500 and hit enter, when you type in 10 square roots of 5, that should match. So of course you can't do the variable parts, but you can check out the numbers to make sure they're right. Just make sure if there's a negative out here on your test that you include the negative in your answer. Okay? So I'll transfer this over here. All right. Now on to G. I highly recommend that for this problem that you write out some blanks. we have a number minus a number minus a number minus a number. Okay? What you want to refer to is your chart here and divide each of these exponents by 4. If you divide 32 by 4, it divides evenly with no remainder. I'm sorry, I'm going to try to make this a little clearer. It divides evenly with no remainder. No remainder is 1, positive 1. So in that first blank, I'm going to put positive 1. 30 divided by 4 ends in 0.5. Go back to the chart. 0.5 is negative 1. 36 divided by 4 divides evenly. So if it divides evenly, that's a positive 1. And 46 divided by 4 ends in 0.5. 0.5 is negative 1. Now with this, yes, you could change minus and negative to addition, but please don't even mess with it. Just type in 1 minus negative 1 minus 1 minus negative 1. And we get an answer of 2. Okay? All right, next for H. Try to keep my work neat so I can text that out to you as well. For H, we have 4I cubed cubed. So remember, anything to the third, to a power outside means we write it 3 times. So this is going to be 4, and I'm going to do on the inside I, just to make sure you understand what it means. And it'll hopefully help prevent any errors. So 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. I, and if you notice, you have 9 of them, so that's I to the 9th power. But again, anything with these powers higher than I to the first, we've got to simplify. So we want to divide it by 4. It ends in 0.25. Refer back to your chart. If it ends in 0.25, that's I. So this is really 64 times I, which is 64I as your answer. Okay? So 64I. Next for J, you want to distribute. When you distribute, we get 15I minus 24I squared. Because I squared is negative 1, we're actually going to end up with positive 24. When we rewrite our answer, we want 24 plus 15I. All right. Where'd the other page go? And was that H? H, J, H, I? Man, I messed up your letters. I apologize for that on your review. This is H, and then I've got J, but then on the back side, I've got H and I. So this is going to be the second H. So this will be from the back. 2 minus 5I, quantity squared, plus 3 plus 4I, quantity squared. So I'm going to do the box for each one of these. Remember, we write this twice. And I'm going to put a plus sign in between them and do the box for the second one. So ultimately we should get a quantity for this box plus the quantity for that box. 4, negative 10I, negative 10I, positive 25I squared. Remember, that will become negative 25 because it's 25 times negative 1. Be careful. Don't assume that these cancel out. They do not. Negative 10 minus 10 is negative 20. However, when we combine the 4 with the negative 24, don't make it hard. 4 minus 25, negative 21. We'll have negative 21 minus 20i. Plus, for the other box, 9, 12i, 12i, and 16i squared. This becomes negative 16. 9 minus 16 is negative 7. 12i plus 12i is 24i. Combine your like terms. Don't make this hard. Negative 21 plus negative 7 is negative 28. Remember to put your real parts first, then your imaginary, your eyes. Negative 20 plus 24. It doesn't like having a plus beside a plus. It's just positive 4. So plus 4i. So notice for these answers, we should have real, then imaginary. Okay? So on your review, all right. Next for problem I here on the back, 4 minus 3i minus the quantity 7 plus I. Please be careful on this. Please put in a negative 1 and remember to distribute the negative only. This is not a multiplication problem. We bring this down. Negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. Negative 1 times I is negative I. We do not multiply these together. We simply combine like terms. We can combine these integers. Ignore the I term. 4 minus 7 is negative 3. Ignore those terms. Negative 3i minus 1i is negative 4i. And that is it. Okay? All right, that concludes problem 5 on your test review.